Meanwhile, Russian President Vladimir Putin is starting to face backlash after the Kharkiv defeat and is even facing calls from within Russia, some calls to resign. According to the New York Times, more than 40 local elected officials across Russia are petitioning for the Russian leader to step down. The backlash comes after Ukraine's lightning counteroffensive reclaimed an area in the northeast the size of Greater London and did so in just 48 hours. The Times notes that the petition, pushed by opponents of the Ukraine invasion, had no practical impact and was roundly ignored in Russia's state-controlled media, suggesting that Putin's supporters are looking for someone else to blame. The paper also writes this: on Russian state television, where criticism of the Kremlin is rare, supporters of the war are increasingly pointing fingers over what they now cast as a disorganized and insufficiently concerted invasion. Others are raising the idea of suing for peace. This is even a small crack in the Russian facade noteworthy. Joining us now, former commanding general for the United States Army in Europe, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges. Lieutenant General Hodges, thank you so much for being with us this morning. Let's just start with getting your assessment of what you have learned so far about this counteroffensive. Undeniable progress from Ukraine. There's some, though, who have cautioned there's a long way to go. The fighting still remains fierce in many ports in the country. What's your take, and what more can the U.S. do to help?
Jonathan, thank you. You're exactly right. It is too early to start planning victory parades. However, it does feel like Ukraine has seized the momentum, and that this momentum could be irreversible. Still, lots of fighting ahead. I think this is the result of very professional, thorough planning and preparation by the Ukrainian General Staff, disciplined execution by Ukrainian forces, skillful employment of important weapons provided by the United States and other Western countries, and of course, a collapse of Russian will to fight in the areas that have been attacked. And that collapse of will to fight is partly the result of continuous bombardment of Russian logistics, and because we know that most of the Russian soldiers that are there don't want to be there. They're not even sure why they're there. So this is a happy convergence, if you will, of factors.
Yeah, it's certainly such a startling divide that the Ukrainians, of course, are fighting for their very homes. The Russians, a lot of them, not even sure really why they're there. So let's get you to drill down a little bit more on that. Morale in the Russian forces, obviously very poor. U.S. senior defense officials I spoke to yesterday said they were still, though, stunned at just how quickly the Russians retreated, in many cases, not even putting up a fight.
Yeah, part of this collapse is the result of institutional corruption that goes back for several years that I have to admit that I did not realize the corruption was so deep when I was still the commander of U.S. Army Europe. When you have that kind of corruption, then you end up with equipment that is poorly manufactured, or the quality control is not there. People are, commanders, even administrative officials, siphoning off money that should be going to equipment and rations and proper tires for trucks, this sort of thing. So that's a part of it. The other part, the Russian logistics system is not designed, never was designed to support extended land operations outside of Russia. But that's what they've had to do for 6 months. And so, of course, the strain is breaking down the system. And because of things like HIMARS and other precision weapons, the Ukrainians have been able to pound ammunition sites, command and control nodes, all the things that are necessary to enable Russian soldiers to fight. And so it's a skillful employment of weapons, but the Ukrainians knew where to target to get the most effect.
And lastly and briefly, any criticism of Putin is noteworthy, but it does seem like the military commanders may be the scapegoats here for what's happening, the Russian military commanders. If there were a change in leadership there, what could that do? Would that further hinder the Russian forces, or do you think it would open up a new chapter where they may launch a more dangerous and potentially risky counteroffensive?
Great question. To be honest, I'm surprised that Minister Shoigu and General Gerasimov still have their jobs. I mean, these are the top two guys. So they're either still in position because of intense loyalty, or because the Kremlin fears that if they remove those two, then there is nobody that could actually take it over. So there is a problem when you don't have reliable leadership at the very top that can implement the political guidance.
All right. Well, Lieutenant General Ben Hodges, we greatly appreciate your insight this morning. We hope to speak to you again soon. Thank you. Still ahead here.